And our next presenter is Eduardo García Dobarganes, who represents the Office of the Presidency. He is head of data for development within the Office of the Presidency. It is an initiative from the National Digital Strategy Coordination to foster the use of data in generating and assessing public policy. He studied political science at the Autonomous Technology Institute of Mexico, and until recently he had the role of data scientist at the Mexican Institute for Competitiveness. And I will not let anybody to touch this again, so that we have the right presentation. Well, hello. First of all, I'd like to thank Infotech for inviting me, as well as to INEGI for organizing this seminar. And now I am the infiltrated bureaucrat at a preponderantly technical event, but I hope you enjoy my presentation. I will present now an initiative of the federal government to bring in information technologies in our government's everyday decision making. And the office that I lead is a small data laboratory that is called the Laboratory of Data for Development. And our idea is how can we use the data produced by the government, by private entities also, as well as information from other alternative sources such as social networks, social media, and the internet to make better public policy decisions, both to create them and to implement them. But first, let me tell you about the concept, about the context of our office. First of all, and very good, and Ignacio gave us a very good introduction for this, because in our office we're coordinating what will be the repository of public information for the government of Mexico City. That it will be datos.gov.mx that will be launched in a few months. We are one of our goals are slightly more aggressive than other Latin American countries, because most of the information that is being generated by the federal government will be made public with a predefined format. We think that this will be beneficial to add value to most sectors in society. And one of the problems we have in society is that even though we have the National Institute of Geographics and Statistics, INEGI, that is a very large repository, almost the entire federal public administration produces information, and information that is not very much compatible, that is scattered around the websites of many public agencies. And so it is very difficult for us to do this type of data analysis with government data, because we're not even sure where most of the data is. And if we manage to find it, probably this will be found in closed formats that will make analysis difficult. Throughout the seminar, what we have seen with yesterday's and today's speakers are data applications in our country. In the case of the government, we are somewhat behind, because there cannot be applications if there is no relatively available data. So the national open data policy that we are leading at our office will try to change the situation. In October, the President of the Republic will issue a decree on open data, by which almost all the agencies of the federal public administration, more than 270, will make available all that information that is public. This is information that is not in conflict with national security, privacy, public security. That information, that data will have to be released by the agencies. And what do I mean when I say open data? Well, Ignacio was already summarizing this in the same way. What we want is to make this public data available on standard formats. First, that it is accessible to all, to make it online. This is why we'll have the central repository, data.gov.mx, to make it free of charge, to make it open in terms of format, so it can be readable by machines. A problem we have with government data we've found is that information is made so that people can read the chart and know what is happening. But when we want to standardize and use large amounts of data, that becomes very difficult to analyze, because many agencies issue their information and merge the spreadsheets and 5-column spreadsheets in Excel. That might not be so much of a problem, but when we are using these very large amounts of information, it will take us a lot more time to just clean the data before we're able to use it. And something else that we're looking for is to make this information openly licensed, to change and distribute all this information without having to pay any any dues. And we want to make this information primary and timely. With primary, I mean that all the data that the federal government was producing were highly aggregated data, and we want this information to be increasingly reported at the lowest aggregation level from microdata in the case that no privacy issues are present. But we want that the agencies issue this information at the lowest aggregation level. Now, we will launch this website that will be actually launched in a month, and it has been the result of a very long process that has involved going to public agencies for them to know what to do with their data, to be able to classify the data so that we can add it and incorporate it to our system in a standardized manner. So we are currently working with a program called Data Squad. With it, we select 15 government agencies every week to send people to these agencies to tell them what we need them to do to prepare their data for this open format. This is the architecture of the website. I think that is not easy to read. The point about this website, well, I give up. I give up. The point of the website is to create a system through which all data is in a centralized repository to which all agencies will have access. So what we create is a system that is called administration of the openness process. Its acronym in Spanish is ADELA. And the officer in charge of uploading information is to log into the system with the valid credentials that would grant them access, and to upload the data catalog of their agency, the data and the metadata of this catalog. All this data will be uploaded to a server to a data catalog that is called SICAM. Almost everything is open source, and it has been developed by the Open Knowledge Foundation, which is more or less the international standard for this data. UK uses SICAN, data.gov from the United States also uses that format. And what we want to have is the first layer of data at the most granular and at the stronger level. But we know that for data to be useful, we need to have users. Advanced users would be able to download information at the granular level, and there will also be a layer of applications with a data cube from SICAP to upload layers from different agencies. It will be then possible to know what is the level of granularity and then compare with other layers. We're developing a platform. Actually, we have a contract with the founders of Mapbox that will develop an open source map to upload all geospatial information layers we have available at the country that will be uploaded, so that this website is not only a repository but also a way for the citizens to know what data is there and to be able to visualize it in real time, even if they're not specialists. However, what really concerns us in the side of big data is the website's API. To be honest, of most of the websites we have cataloged so far, very few of them really fall into the category of big data. However, there are 3 or 4 specifically. The database of weather stations from the National Water Commission, or the invoicing system of the tax authority. We begin with the cloud, where we find the data from the federal public administration. The federal public administration will be able to connect through a web service to our openness server that will be called Adela, where they will be able to have access to the web service. And what will happen is that their real-time data system will be feeding our data catalog, SICA.
And as a result of the SICAN, users and public government agencies can request with dates, etc., to our data catalog. And this way, they can obtain large amounts of data in almost real time, as or at the same rate at which the government agencies upload this information. The biology is quite simple. We want Mexico to publish granular data. We understand that a very small amount of the population uses this, but we know that this sector is going to generate the most added value to us. We want the data to uh, come from a granular area, but we want it to become part of we want this to be an information molecule, a table through which you can review statistics and municipalities, and the result of this, you can generate systems such as Reconstruction MX. So this is national policy for open data. However, we believe at the presidency that policy is useless if we don't incorporate data in the decision-making process of the government. To be clear, the government generates databases left and right. However, it doesn't guide public policy implementation. What we want with our laboratory is to find a way to use this data to improve decision making for the government, and that by making this data transparent, the civil society can also evaluate government programs, because the more minds working on this, the more people analyzing this, it's more likely for an idea on how to improve public policy to appear. So we have a bunch of text here, but what do we want to do with this laboratory? Well, we want to have this series of granular data, and something else I didn't mention is in datos.gov.mx is that other data that isn't public can be placed in the CCAN, so we can generate alliances with private initiative to generate other data and other databases. In this way, they can upload their data and also promote better public policy. The lab is quite new. We've been working for about a month, so I can't really show you any finished products, but our mandate is quite big, or quite encompassing. One is maternal death, and that's one of the ODMs of the UN, and it's something. MDOs. We're never going to reach our objectives with this tendency. However, the health sector creates lots of data, but deaggregately. Some of the data is in public, but one of our projects has to do with how, through the use of data, such as deaths with comorbidities, how can we better understand the issue of maternal death? We also have the National Program for the Social Prevention of Crime, the Productivity Democratization Program, and also mitigation and attention of risks, and the Crusade Against Hunger. One of the first approaches to try and use this data for better public policy or inform the public of what is done is through our website, which is reconstruction.mx. You may remember that last year with the hurricanes and Ingrid hurricane, there was a huge amount of disasters. One of the main problems there has to do with how we assign funds for reconstruction, funds for the mitigation that will allow us to support the people affected by natural disasters. So what the tax service does is that, well, they have quite a lot of information how much money is distributed to each sector, and this is a proof of concept to what we could show of what we could do with the data. So they had their information was so disaggregated that they didn't know how much money was being given to each municipality. So we created a map in which we have screenshots of the website, However, the website is reconstruction.mx.presidencia.gov.mx, and you can see this in more detail. An idea is that we have to show how we assign or allocate resources per municipality in this country and whether these municipalities were affected by the storms or not. And we can also check the level of marginalization in this municipality. Something we discover is that damage is very present in very marginalized areas, areas that are already quite poor. We've already included open spending to show people of all the money spent, $40 million, I mean pesos, what this money is spent on. What you can see what percentage goes to medicine, what percentage goes to road reconstruction, food, and then you can disaggregate it per state. For what state and how much per each. Another large project is a crusade against hunger. It's a project in which we have 15 government agencies working, and government is being spent by them for different programs. In the same sense as Reconstruction.mx, they didn't know how to bring together their data and know what municipalities were receiving the money. So we created this tool on the number of total beneficiaries for the different programs that support the crusade against hunger. So you can see the subsidies for each dependency, and you can color the different areas. So you put subsidies together and see what the conditions of poverty in our country are like and how the money of this program is being spent. Finally, the most interesting project, I think, well, it was shown yesterday when my colleagues showed it, but it's a project on how people move during a disaster. We were doing this together with the UN Go POSLAP and Telefonica to show how to better support people during natural disasters, because the people of civil protection weren't really sure where to spend their posts for the attention of people. Someone in the panel was mentioning that data created by the government is data you will see 3 months afterwards. The government agency is adjusting to monthly or quarterly numbers. What we want to do with this, through this initiative, is to make this process swifter. Sometimes you are going to implement public policy that's very costly and you won't know if it failed until 1 year later. It's money that is being misspent, and this is why the presidency of Mexico wants to improve data collection as part of a better government. Thank you. Oh, just an announcement. Another of the initiatives we have is publishing data so that civil society can help us obtain better ideas. One of the ideas I will be showing soon, I invite those of you data scientists, mathematicians. We have in the framework of the campus party in Zapopan, we have a datathon where, in collaboration with the municipal government of Zapopan, we have given access to databases we normally don't give access to, such as crime, a geo-referenced crime, also use of cell phone towers. So we want people to give us insight on how to possibly improve services and government functioning in Zapopan. So check datathon.gov.mx. So we invite you to participate. Thank you very much. Thank you to Eduardo and all the panelists. I think despite the contingencies and delays, we kept our time